This happened last year when I went to a McDonald's in California. I was hungry and stopped to get a Big Mac and fries. It was about 9 o'clock at night and the place was surprisingly quiet. When I entered the McDonald's, I saw that it had an electronic touchscreen where you could place an order, so I walked over to one and tapped it to start. I began looking through the menu for the items that I wanted. I got them and looked around for a minute or two to see if there was anything else that I wanted. All of a sudden, the screen went black for a second, and then came back. When it came back, there was a line on the screen as if it was damaged or cracked. I thought this was strange, but overall, it seemed to still be working. I continued, until only a few seconds later, it went black again. This time, a message in creepy font appeared on the screen. It said, "You're in trouble." I was totally freaked out, and a sudden bad feeling came over me. The screen once again went black, and then returned to its normal state. I didn't really care to keep ordering, and decided to just cancel my order and leave. I got food somewhere else that night, but a few weeks later, I found myself in the same area, but this time it was during the day. I was feeling brave, and I went back to the same McDonald's location, sort of out of curiosity. I walked inside, but noticed right away that the touch screens for ordering were no longer there. I then walked to the counter where someone asked me if I would like to order. I asked the person working behind the counter what happened to the touchscreen ordering. The man working told me that they did not have it at this location. I told him I had been there a few weeks earlier and I had used it. The man responded by saying that they had never had touchscreens at this location. I couldn't believe it. I knew for a fact this was the same location that I had been to. I left wondering what exactly had happened the last time I had been there. I'm a female, and I worked at McDonald's during my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college. This story took place my first year working there, only a few days onto the job. It was my first job I ever had, and I remember one time I was working on a busy weeknight. When things finally got quiet, I was asked to go mop the floors. I mopped around the front of the restaurant and then made my way to the back. When I got towards the back and was almost done, I noticed there was one man who was sitting in the back corner of the restaurant. As I mopped sort of near him, he said hi to me. I said hi, and the man then asked me what time I got off of work that night. I told the man I was getting off pretty soon and then went back to mopping. He asked me what I was doing after work, and I responded that I was going to my friend's house, which happened to be a lie, but this guy was kind of creeping me out, so I made something up. I could feel the man just watching me as I did, and he was just constantly watching me for several minutes after that. It was really starting to creep me out. I was finally done mopping, and shortly after that I could go home. I left the restaurant and noticed that the man was still sitting in the corner as I did. I was relieved that he didn't try to follow me out or anything like that. I went home and got ready for bed as it was a school night and about 10 p.m. I got into bed and started watching some shows on the TV in my bedroom. I would say about an hour or so later, I was beginning to get really sleepy and turned off my light. When my light got turned off, it revealed that on the other side of my bedroom window, there was a shadow. I had a shade covering the window, but if it was dark out, you could sort of see shadows on the other side of it. Usually, there was the shadow of a tree that was on the side of the window, and a bush on the other one. But now, there was a large shadow right smack in the middle, and it appeared to be a person. I got a bad feeling immediately, and slowly pushed the shades down a little bit. All I needed was about 1 inch of space to see that there was a man right outside of my window. I jumped back and screamed as loud as I could. I could see the shadow moving, and a couple of seconds later my parents came running into the room. I was freaking out, but once my parents understood, my dad ran outside. Unfortunately, the man was long gone by the time he got out there, and he didn't see any sign of him. When he came back inside, my mom had already called the police, and I told them all about the creepy guy at McDonald's. After the police came and we spoke with them, we went to the McDonald's the next day. Luckily, I never saw the man again. I almost quit McDonald's after that, but decided to stick with it and worked there for 2 years. That remains the scariest story I have from my time working there. When I was in college, I worked at McDonald's during the summer. One day, I was working on a Saturday, and I was behind the counter taking people's orders. It was going pretty well for a weekend, until a man came up and asked for 2 Big Macs. I put in the order, he paid, and I gave him his receipt. I then helped the next person in line. About a minute later, he came back up and said he was charged for 2 Big Macs, but he only wanted 1. I told him he ordered 2, because I know I heard him say 2 Big Macs. He got angry when I said that, and said, "Don't put words in my mouth, I know what I said." "I'm sorry, sir, I wasn't trying to," I said. He then told me not to get smart with him. I could tell he was a short-tempered man. I apologized again, and offered to give him money back for a Big Mac and only give him the 1, but he said he didn't want that anymore. He then started saying that I should be fired. I told him to calm down, but that didn't work. He started raising his voice, and everybody in the restaurant was beginning to notice. One of my coworkers, Jack, came up and started talking to the man. After a brief conversation with Jack, he said he didn't want anything and he just wanted to leave. We gave him his money, and I thought the situation was over. That is, until he leaned in over the counter and said to me, "When you get off, I'll be waiting for you." I didn't know whether to take this as a joke or not, but clearly the man had issues if he was going to make a scene over an extra Big Mac. I didn't say anything, and he turned and walked out. I wasn't too concerned with this threat at all, because I was only an hour into my 8-hour shift. I knew there's no way a man was going to wait around that long, and I didn't think he would actually do that at all. I worked the rest of my shift, which went by relatively well. In fact, by the time I was done, I had forgotten all about the incident. It was 10 p.m. when I was off, so I got my things and headed out to my car. As I approached my car, I saw a car at the other end of the parking lot's doors swing open. Sure enough, out walked the man from earlier. I couldn't believe he actually waited for me. I sprinted for my car and he chased after me. I almost made it to my door when he grabbed my arm. He started to pull me away from my car, and that's when I screamed like a little girl. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my pepper spray and sprayed it everywhere. Eventually it got his face in the struggle, and he let go of me and ran away. I accidentally sprayed myself in the face as well, but I was able to get into my car and lock the door with my eyes burning. It didn't get me too bad, and I was able to regain my composure after a couple minutes. Unfortunately, the man got away, but I just feel lucky that he didn't hurt me. It still blows my mind to think that he waited around 7 hours to confront me. This happened to me last year. I was hungry after a late night shift at work. It was past midnight, so I knew I didn't have many options. I saw McDonald's and pulled off the highway to go there. McDonald's hours vary depending on the location, so I was hoping they would be open. However, the lights were fairly dim, so I wasn't quite sure. I decided to pull into the drive-thru to see. When I pulled up to the speaker, I heard a voice say, "Hi, welcome to McDonald's, what can I get you today?" I said I would have the number 9, and that was all. They said sure and to pull up to the first window. So I pulled my car around. However, when I reached the window, nobody came to it. I saw the kitchen lights appeared to be all dimmed as if they were closed. I waited there for a couple minutes. I knew I was the only customer, so I didn't know what was taking them so long. After another minute went by, I didn't see any movement at all. I took out my phone and searched McDonald's on Google Maps. The location came up, and when I looked, it said it was closed. I was confused and kept staring at my screen, wondering if this was a mistake. Just then, I saw somebody finally appear at the window out of the corner of my eye. It was a man in all black with a hood covering most of his face. As soon as I turned my head, he ducked down. I drove off as fast as I could and went straight home. I don't know who that was or what happened, but I do know I won't go back to that McDonald's. Years ago, I worked at Burger King. It was a job that I had during my college years when I was usually broke. I drove a really beat-up old car, so it was a job that I needed to pay my bills. I worked a lot of late shifts where we closed. I would sometimes take some food and eat it after I was done with work to save money. One night, I worked another closing shift, and after cleaning up and closing the place, the few of us employees left and got to our cars in the parking lot. The rest of them drove off, but I stayed in my car eating because of how hungry I was at the moment. It was a hot night and stuffy in my car, so I decided to start it up and turn the AC on, but when I tried, it wouldn't start. This would happen to me occasionally because of how old my car was. I really needed a new one, but I couldn't afford it quite yet. I stopped trying to start my car and rolled down my window instead to get a breeze. I thought about maybe starting it again, but I called my dad and told him just in case. Thankfully, we didn't live too far away, and he could give me a ride home if I needed it. I sat there in the parking lot, continuing to eat and wait for my dad to get there. I had backed into the parking space that I was in, which was the side parking lot of the Burger King next to a large woods. As I was sitting there, I started to hear the noise of something in the woods. I looked, but saw nothing, and I guessed it was just the wind. But suddenly, I heard something hit the back of my car. I couldn't tell what it was, but it sounded like a pebble or maybe a stick. Something then flew over my car past it, which looked like some sort of rock. I looked behind me, but saw nothing other than the thick woods and darkness. Then something else hit my car. I looked behind me once again. This time, I saw a man from behind a tree. I saw him throw something else at me. He leaned out and fired what appeared to be a rock. I was leaning out the window, and this one went right by my head. It was thrown so hard that I saw it go past the Burger King parking lot and hit the side of the restaurant. I could now see that it was in fact a large rock. I heard some noises in the woods as if the man was saying something. He sounded angry, but I couldn't make out any of the words. I looked in my mirror. I saw the man take a step out from the woods and start to walk towards my car. I was desperate and scrambled to start my car again, hoping that this time it would work. Luckily for me, this time the car just barely started up. As soon as it did, I sped out of the parking lot and left. I was able to get away and called my dad telling him not to go to Burger King anymore. The next day, I learned that the windows of the Burger King had been broken and we were closed for a whole week while they fixed it. I guess whoever was in the woods was throwing rocks and went and broke the windows after I left. I'm just glad that they didn't hit me. This story is the strangest thing to ever happen to me. It was last year, and I was about an hour away from my house where I lived and on my way home. I was hungry and it was nighttime. I hadn't had dinner yet and saw a Burger King, so I stopped off for some food. I parked in the parking lot and went inside. When I got inside, the place seemed sort of quiet, but I did see a few people eating inside and one person up by the counter. I walked over and somebody took my order. They told me it would be a little while, so I took a step back and waited. I decided while I was waiting to go use the bathroom, and I walked down the hall. I got inside the bathroom and was in there for maybe a minute total. I took my time washing my hands, and once I left the bathroom and walked back out, I noticed that the light in the hallway was now off. Then I got to the main part of the restaurant and saw that all of those lights were off as well. I walked over to the counter. Everything seemed to be off, and nobody was back there. I guess maybe they closed soon, but I had still placed my order, and nobody else that had been in there before was there. I walked all around the whole restaurant, and every light was off, and nobody else was inside at all. There was no sounds coming from the kitchen area, and I looked back around and couldn't see anybody. I then walked out of the restaurant. My car was the only car in the parking lot now, too. I had no idea what was going on, and I just drove away, feeling creeped out. I still have no way of explaining it, and every time I've told the story to other people, they don't believe me. Some people think the employees were playing a joke on me and turned all the lights off and hid or something like that. Maybe that's true, but I don't know how they would do it all so fast. Either way, it's very strange. Me and my boyfriend were on a road trip to visit some national parks and stopped at a Burger King pretty late at night. My boyfriend and I went in,
and he went to the bathroom while I ordered food for us. The old woman at the counter took my order, but I got a weird vibe from her. I wasn't too concerned though, because most nights fast food workers seem creepy for some reason in my experiences. After I ordered, I waited for my boyfriend to come back, but he didn't, and I don't know why I thought something was wrong. I got the food and was still waiting, so I went to the men's bathroom. As I was walking down the little hallway, I saw light coming out of the bottom of the bathroom door. I knocked to make sure he was okay, but when I did, there was no response. Then the door suddenly opened and my boyfriend walked out. I asked him why he didn't answer me, but he just walked past me with a glassy look over his eyes. I saw he had something in his hand and sped up to get in front of him to ask what his problem was. When I turned the corner, I saw him looking at the old woman that was working, and they had this look on their faces, but I didn't hear them talking at all. When I got over there, I saw he had a piece of a broken mirror in his hand, and all of a sudden he rushed towards me. I didn't know what was happening, so I grabbed his hand and I managed to knock the shard out of it. I hit the side of his head lightly because he scared me with how he was acting. Once I did, he seemed to wake up almost out of a weird state and asked what happened. I looked over at the employee and she rushed to the back of the kitchen and out of sight. Then I walked to the bathroom to see what happened when he was in there. As I opened the door, I saw an old box TV in the bathroom with a weird video playing. It had some weird shapes on the screen. I left the bathroom and told my boyfriend we should leave now. As we drove away, I explained how he acted weird when he came out of the bathroom, and it seemed like he was going to hurt me with the mirror piece in his hand. He didn't remember leaving the bathroom, so we pieced together that the woman worker had something to do with the weird trance he got into. We still don't know why the woman ran to the back of the Burger King, or if she had something to do with why there was a weird video playing in the bathroom. But the rest of the drive for that night, we were paranoid of the woman following us, or what would have happened if my boyfriend didn't wake up from what happened to him.
Our official merch store is finally here. If you want to support more of our channel, check out our merch shop. The link is in the description down below. See you on the next video.